Good day, everyone. We are the Group 12, and today we will be presenting Chapter 14 International Trade and Comparative Advantage. This topic is important because it helps us understand why countries trade, how they benefit from trading, and how comparative advantage guides nations in producing goods more efficiently. Throughout our discussion, we will explain how countries gain by specializing in what they produce best and how international trade allows all nations to enjoy more goods at lower cost. Understanding these ideas will help us see the impact of global trade on economies and our daily lives. For the flow of our report, namely Shane and Noipig will discuss the first topic, followed by Janelle Berlan, Ira Alardi, and Kia Gil Pipito for the remaining parts of presentation.
This chapter explores how international trade and globalization benefit economies by fostering interconnectedness through advancement in transportation and communication. A key concept here is comparative advantage. Countries benefit when they specialize in producing goods or services where they have a relative efficiency and then trade with others. Example, think of Japan, a country with advanced technology. They specialize in producing high-tech electronics, which they then trade with countries like the Philippines for agricultural products. Now let's look at the graph. The graph compares labor costs in different countries relative to the United States. It examines these costs in 1975 and 2016. The graph reveals that wages in many countries, such as Germany and France, have risen significantly approaching US levels, while some countries like South Korea and Mexico still have lower labor costs. The trend suggests that companies aren't solely driven by rock-bottom wages anymore. Other factors like skill, technology, and infrastructure play a bigger role. Example, consider the BPO, business process outsourcing industry in the Philippines. While labor costs are a factor, companies are also attracted by the skilled workforce and English proficiency. Next, why trade? International trade is vital because resources are evenly distributed across the globe. No single country possesses everything it needs. Some countries have abundant resources while others lack them. This forces nations to trade to acquire goods and resources they cannot produce themselves. Even if countries have similar resources, different in climate, terrain, and skills influence trade. Specialization, where countries focus on specific industries, is a key reason for international trade. Enhancing living standards, trade also helps countries obtain vital resources they lack. Some countries operate their own international airlines for reasons of national pride, not regional economic calculation. Example, the Philippines, for instance, might export electronics and garments while importing oil and wheat. Central Visayas, with its strong tourism sector, benefit from trade through the impact of goods and services that cater to tourists. Is globalization something new? Globalization isn't a recent phenomenon. There were significant international connections even before World War I. However, the current wave is unique due to technology and reduced trade barriers. While financial markets aren't fully integrated and labor is less mobile than in the past, this surge is essentially a resumption of a previous trend. Each country climate, labor force, and other endowments make it a relatively efficient producer of some goods and a relatively inefficient producer of others. Example, think about the rise of e-commerce. Companies like Shopee and Lazada connect buyers and sellers across borders. something that was unimaginable a few decades ago.
Mutual gains from trade. People often believe that when nations trade, one country gains only if the other loses. But this idea is incorrect. As Adam Smith explained, voluntary trade happens only when both sides effects to benefit. Trade does not increase the total amount of goods, but it allows each party to get a mix of products that's better matches their needs and preference. For example, if one person has only cookies and another has only milk, exchanging some of each makes both better of even though no new goods are created. The same principle applies to countries when the United States trades chemical for Mexico's tomatoes. Both nations gain because they receive goods they value more. In short, trade is a win-win situation because it lets sides consume a more desirable combination of goods than they could without trade. Trade is a smart way for people and countries to get what they need. Instead of trying to make everything by themselves, they focus on what they do best and trade for the best. Imagine this, you're great at baking cookies, but not so great at making juice. Your friend is awesome at making juice, but their cookies are terrible. So, unsa tong buhaton? Mag-trade. Then tagaan nimo imong friend og cookies and tagaan kas imong friend og juice. So, nganong smart man ni siya? You both get something you need at making. You both get something you want and everyone's happier. That's what countries do. The Philippines might be great at growing rice. Another country might be great at making cars. They trade, the Philippines gets cars and the other country gets rice. Ang resulta, both countries get more stuff and are better off. It's like magic, but it's just smart trading. International versus international trade. International is the exchange between two or more different countries, while international trade is the exchange of goods and services within a single country borders. Yellow representing the international, orange international trade. Currency. International involves currency exchange between different national currency, USD, Euro, and Yen. International uses a single national currency such as the US dollar within the United States. Regulations. International subject to a variety of international agreements, tariffs, quotas, and custom procedures from each participating country. International subject to one set of domestic laws, policy, and regulations. Factors. International is a higher transportation cost and greater complexity due to differences in language, legal system, and regulations across borders. International typically has lower transportation costs and factors of production like labor and capital and generally more mobile within the country. For example, in the US, California produces a lot of fruits and vegetables because of its good climate. Texas, on the other hand, is strong in cattle and meat production. California sells fruits to Texas while Texas sells beef to California. Mas dali ang trade kay usara ang country. Walay border nga problema og pareho ra ang rules. For example, in international trade, ganiha is international trade nga example. And karon mag-talk about international trade example. Example, the Philippines exports bananas, pineapples, and electronics to Japan. Japan pays in yen, while the Philippines uses pesos. There are also customs, checks, and taxes. Maglisod siya og trade kay lahi ang balaod ug kwarta sa kada nasod. And even with these differences, the idea is still the same. Specialize and trade, mag-focus ang lugar or sa usa ka bansa sa kung unsa sila maayo unya makabaligya og mapalit sa uban. International trade happens between different countries. Each country has its own currency, rules, taxes, and borders, which makes trade more complicated. Governments regulate how goods, workers, and money move in and out. Political factors in international trade. International trade is shaped by political factors that make it different from trade within a country. Domestic trade works under one government, but international trade involves at least two, and each government cares more about its own citizens than others. For example, the US can tax the trade within its states, but it can tax goods from other countries. A big issue in studying international trade is how these legal barriers, like taxes, are used and sometimes misused to affect trade. International trade is affected by government rules and politics. Trade inside one country is easier because there is only one government. In international trades, each country protects its own citizens. So, mag-add sila taxes or tariffs kay naay limitation on foreign goods. These rules can help local businesses can also slow down or block trade. For example, Leah sells bananas chips in her barangay. No extra fees, same rules. But when Leah sells to a neighboring town, the town hall asks her to pay a permit fee to protect local farmers. Parang bansa mas inuna ang sariling mamayan. The many currencies involved in international trade. When countries trade, they usually use different money or currencies. For example, the US uses dollars and Japan uses yen. The value of these currencies can exchange compared to each other exchange rates na siya. This can cause problems because the price of the things tend to change a lot, which make it hard to plan and do businesses. Countries uses different currencies and their values change over time. Because of this, the prices of goods can suddenly increase or decrease, making international businesses risky and hard to plan. Another example is Leah orders K-pop merch from Korea. 1 week is 1,000 is enough. The next week is the exchange rates change and the same merch now costs 1,300. Wala nagbago ang item pero nagbago kung pila ang presyo sa 1 week sa sunod nga week. Impediments to mobility of labor and capital. Labor and capital move much more easily within a country than across national borders. Then this creates major impediments to international mobility. Inside a country, workers can move from one state to another to follow job, facing only personal costs like moving expenses or leaving familiar surroundings. But moving to another country is far harder because of immigration rules, employment restrictions, and even language barriers. Capital also faces stronger barriers internationally. Many nations limit foreign ownership and foreign investors face political risk, including possible nationalization, even when these extreme events don't happen. International investments carry exchange rate risk since changes in currency values can sharply reduce the value of money invested abroad. Within a country, people and money can move freely and easily. Across countries, these are visas, work permits, ownerships, limits, language barriers, and currency risk. This makes international movement of workers and investments more difficult. Example, Leah moves to Cebu for work. She just packs her bags, but if Leah works in Japan, she needs a visa, job contract, and must learn Japanese. If Leah invests money abroad, she might lose a value if the currency goes down. Mas daghang requirements and daghang risk if naa ka sa laing lugar like sa kang Leah nga naag nagtrabaho sa Japan kay daghan siya laing buhaton na pa siya kuha nga visa, job contract at kailangan niya makahibaw unsa unya pag connect adto sa laing lugar which is sa Japan if di siya kahibaw mo tubag or di siya kahibaw mo tabi sa Japanese nga word or language. The principle of comparative advantage. The principle of comparative advantage explains countries gain from trade when one nation is more efficient at producing everything, while absolute advantage means country can produce a good using fewer resources, as Brazil does with coffee and the United States with software. Comparative advantage focuses on relative efficiency. David Ricardo showed that a country should specialize in producing the good at which is at least inefficient compared to its trading partner. This means a nation can still benefit from importing a product it could technically produce more efficiently at home if doing so allow it to focus on goods where its advantage is even greater. In short, it is a comparative, not absolute advantage that determines the most efficient production pattern and creates mutual gains from international trade. Comparative advantage means focuses on what you do best relative to others, not everything. Even if a country can produce all goods, it benefits more specializing and trading, which leads to mutual gains. Example, Leah cooks amazing adobo and can bake okay. Her friends bakes great cupcakes but cooks average meals. Leah cooks adobo, her friend bakes cupcakes. Then they trade. Mas dali and mas lami kung pareho silang daog.
The arithmetic of comparative advantage. So the arithmetic of comparative advantage shows that countries can gain from trade even if one country is more efficient at producing all goods. So kani ang kuan siya kani sabi buhaton nimo og asa ka mas maayo ana kumpara sa ubang option nimo, and then let someone buhaton sa nila og asa sila mas maayo kumpara sa ilang option. So na example diri ang Japan ug ang USA. So this table shows why two countries, the US and Japan, can both benefit from trading with each other even though the US is generally more efficient at making everything. So the table 2, makita dyan nato here nga ang US is better in everything good. Kaya ang US can make 50 computers and Japan is 10 ra. And then sa television is 50, ang US is ang 50 ang US and 40 sa Japan. So daghan jud sa US, diba? Kay US can produce more of both goods. It has an absolute advantage in both. So even though US is better at both, its advantage is much bigger in one area than the other. So US makes 5 times more computers kaysa sa Japan. So 50 versus 10. That's why US is more efficient. So US has a comparative advantage in computers. But when it comes to television naman, Japan makes 50 TVs compare to the US 50. Gamara siya glabaw 40 versus 50. So this good is Japan best bet because ilang disadvantage is gamara. So Japan has a comparative advantage in television. So both country gain in they stop trying to make everything and instead specialize in the product where they have the comparative advantage. So ang specialize sa US is ang computer. Then kay computer siya kay mao man ang comparative advantage sa US, and then sa Japan naman is ang television. So in the table 3 shows the net change in production of specialization and trade. So kani nga demonstration ni Ricardo's principle kay if mag-focus ra ka sa unsay mas better or best ninyo na naay comparative advantage and then gi-trade, mas makaproduce kagdaghan without using any additional labor, benefiting with both nation. In the graph of comparative advantage kay, so when the US makes only computers and Japan makes only television, so ilang total numbers at computers and TVs produced globally goes up by 15 each according sa katong table 3. So economists call this trade-off the production possibilities frontier, so PPF. When the countries specialize in trade, they can consume a combination of goods that was previously impossible to reach on their own. So kuan jud siya, dapat do what you do best compared to what else you could be doing and trade for the rest. So here, the figure 1, ang graph The graph shows the maximum amount of computers and television that the US and Japan can make. So sa kaninga graph, ang line sa US is higher than Japan line. It means ang US is better at making both production. And low-cost producer sa US is ang computers and ang Japan is ang TV. So mag-specialize gid sila dapat. So ang specialize sa US is ang computer and then sa Japan is ang TVs. So in the figure 2, makita nato diri nga after nila gi-specialize and then gi-trade with each other, sa kani nga example, one computer for 2 TVs ilang gi-trade ang price para maka-benefit ang tanan. Sa kaning new extended red lines, gipakita diri nga ang consumption possibilities for both the US and Japan. So by focusing on what they make best and trading, both the US and Japan end up with more computers and more TVs than they could have possible made by themselves. Most specialization be complete. So the theory of comparative advantage says countries should specialize. Mag-focus sila og asa sila mas better or efficiently sa ilaha and then trade with each other. But in reality, countries do not completely specialize kay lagi some country are too small to produce sa mga product nga ma-meet nila ang demand of the entire world, and also tungod sa transportation cost, different worker skills ug uban pa. Despite these limits, trade still benefit everyone. When country trade, workers get higher wages. The country becomes more productive and people have more goods available, leading to a higher standard of living. A should revisit comparative advantage exposes the cheap foreign labor fallacy. So why the fear that cheap foreign labor will harm your country workers is wrong. So the main point here is ang trade makes everyone better off tungod sa comparative advantage. It means every country should focus on making what it produce most efficiently and trade it. Bisan pa dili kayo siya absolute best at anything, go ra gyapon. And also by specializing, both trading countries become more productive, which lead to dako nga sildo, mas better na ilang living standard, and more available goods for everyone in both nation. Like sa katong TV and computers nag-example ganina.
Tariff, quotas, and other interference with trade. International trade bring big benefits, but countries often mess with it through tariff, tax on imports, quotas limit on imports, and export subsidy, government help for exporters. Historical, many believe in mercantilism, which say export are goods and imports are bad, leading countries to hard gold. But this doesn't work because one country export or another import. The US once favored protectionism but later shifted to free trade, reducing trade barriers and joining agreements like NAFTA. Modern trade involves debate over the tolls like tariff imposed by Trump and the use of subsidy by other countries like the UE supporting Airbus. International trade help countries get goods cheaper, creating jobs and grow their economics. However, governments sometimes interfere with trade to protect local industry or for political reasons. The most common trade interference are tariff, quotas, and subsidy. Tariff versus quotas. Tariff, tax imposed on important goods. The accompanying tax set the stage by noting that while both measure decrease international trade and raise price for consumer within the country. They differ in important ways ways regarding who benefits and how efficiently they allocate resources. The section will likely delve into these differences, exploring the advantage and disadvantage for each approach. A tariff is a tax on imported goods. Make foreign product more expensive so people buy local product instead. Example, if the Philippines put a tariff on imported rice because more expensive, people buy local grow rice instead, helping Filipino farmers. Why inhabit trade? International trade has been as a global shift away from protectionism since World War II. However, a 2014 Pew Research Center study involving 49,000 people across 44 countries reveals that not everyone is convinced of this trade disability. While majorities generally agree that growing trade and business ties are beneficial, Americans show less enthusiasm. Divergence appear with considering trade's downside. For us, instead, 50% of Americans believe trade destroyed job compared to only 19% globally. Similarly, 45% of Americans think trade lowers wage, while only 21% worldwide share this concern. This perception, while expanding free trade, a thought sail in American politics, often leading to protectionism measures. How popular is international trade? International trade is popular globally, but Americans are more concerned. While 70% worldwide think trade is good, only 55% of Americans agree. Many Americans worry trade industry job 55% and lowers wage is 40%. International trade is generally popular around the world. Most people believe it is good for country. Globally, about 70% to 80% of people worldwide think its trade is good. Only a small percentage believe trade industry job or lower wage. This shows that most countries support international trade because it's bring cheaper goods, more choice, and economic growth. US trade is less popular compared to the rest of the world. About 55 to 68% Americans think trade is good. Because of this concern, Americans are more conscious about free trade. Worldwide, many countries welcome imported products like phone, cars, and food because they are cheaper and improve quality of life. US, some workers fear losing factory job to other countries, so they support limit imports. For domestic firms, tariff can help local compoundness by making important more expensive, but often leads to relocation from other countries. This can cause trade war where everyone loses due to reduce trade. So while tariff might seem good or some local business at first, they can backfire and harm to overall economy. Tariff are tax on import that make foreign goods more expensive. So people buy local product to helping domestic film, but other countries usually fight back by putting their own tariff on your export. This tariff war reduce overall tariff, so everyone ends up worse off in the long run. For example, imported shoes cost of 800 pesos per pair. The government magput og tariff sa imported shoes og 300 pesos. Muna na mo to, a new price sa imported shoes may muna siya og 1,100. Sa local made shoes, mag-cost siya og 1,000 per pair. So, ang resulta na imported shoes are new, more expensive, more than local shoes. Protecting particular industry. Countries often protect Pacific industry from cheaper foreign competition. Use the cheaper labor agreement to help efficient firms and save jobs. But this make product more expensive of of consumers and stop countries from specializing in what they do best to which raising living standards. They are better ways to create jobs and trade adjusting assistance help those hurt by foreign competition. Countries protect certain industry from cheaper foreign goods, of, often saying foreign labor is too cheap to keep local firms open and save jobs. But this means consumers pay more or worse product and countries miss out on specializing in what they best at what usually makes everyone better off. The heuristic thread, there are better ways to create job and thread adjusting assistance help workers firms hurt by foreign competition. For example, imagine a country has a local garment clothing industry that employs thousands of workers. However, clothing imported from another countries are much cheaper because they are used cheaper labor. Imported clothes cost of 300. Local clothes cost of 600. So, mas daghan yung palit sa imported clothes kay barato ra sila. Kaysa sa local, mahal kaayo. Danay lahat po mga factory which is malugi sila. Unya, alam matubanti sa mawagtangag trabaho. The infant industry agreement. The infant industry agreement saying new industry need protection from foreign competition to grow strong enough to serve their own, dating back Alexander Hamilton in 1791. While this can make sense in future gains while repay the cost of protection. 10 week because private investors usually found promising new business like Apple and Google. Even if they losing money at first, if capital is truly unavailable, a government loan is better than trade restriction. Advanced economic and development, financial markets. Legitimate cases are rare, and we most avoid protecting infancy that never mature and say depended on protection forever. Fat industry agreement say new industry need protection to grow strong enough to compete globally. But if they truly promising, private investor fall found them like Apple did. In modern economics, this need is rare, and there is a risk industry never mature. For example, a country want to start own car manufacture industry. Foreign cars are cheaper and better. Local companies cannot compete yet. This gives local car market time to improve technology and skills. After some years, protection is removed once they are strict trade policy. Strict trade policy is the idea that while free trade is best, a country may need to threaten protectionism like tariff to get another nation to drop their own trade barriers. Some think this was behind Trump trade threats like threatening tariff on Europeans' luxury goods to open their bananas market, and Europe later did the same over a USA tax issue. Both times avoiding tariff wars at that acknowledge free trade its superior. It say threats are the best way to achieve it, but this is risky as threats could backfire if other countries don't back down. Strict trade policy, it's about playing hardball to get free trade. The idea is that even thought free trade is the best for everyone. A nation might to put tariff on foreign goods useless, those countries open up their market. The US has done this to threatening Europe with tariff on luxury item to let in American growth bananas. Europe later threatened back over a US tax rule. Both times they made deals just in time to avoid trade war. It's a risky move. Trends might work to get another countries to drop barriers. Also spark a trade war. If things go wrong, can protectionism save free trade? The US threatened to put high tariff to Europeans' luxury goods. Europe risks losing access to US consumers. Europe agrees to open its banana market. Protectionism save free trade. This 1983 column, longtime free trade supporter William suffered argues that protectionism might be needed to save free trade. He used to believe free trade was always best, even if some US business failed or workers lost jobs. But now, saying the world isn't a fair marketplace, many foreign governments practice health policy, blocking imports and boosting exports. Since complying, or he say the US should respond with their own trade restriction to force other countries to follow the rules. He called the T for ta. It's not for rejection for free trade, but a way to protect it from those who break the rule. Well, William Saffer used to be a big fan of free trade. He thought government should stay out of trade, even if it might some US business close or workers lost job, because the long-term benefits were worth it. But day 1983, he saw the many furniture government were playing by helping their own industry, what he called helpfulism, giving them money, keeping furniture goods out, and pushing their exports since asking nicely or negotiating did not work. He said the US should fight back with their own trade restriction. He called this tit or tat, not because he hated free trade, but because he thought it was the only way to make other countries pay fair and save free trade in the end. Can cheap imports hurt a country? Protectionists often fear cheap imports and accuse furniture countries for dumping, selling goods abroad at lower price than at home. Makes say this is illogical. As consumer, we should be happy with low price, not angry about them. The best thing for to get imports as cheap as possible. It would even be idea if other countries give us good for free, letting us live better at their expense. Only industry trying to get protection see low price as bad for the public, which is a backward way of thinking. Our things about protections is that they scared of cheap foreign goods. They called it dumping. When other countries sell things abroad for less than they charge at home. But economics say that doesn't make sense. As consumer, we love low price and every day. So why hate them for imports? The better deals we get of foreign goods, the better off our country. Be amazed if other countries give us stuff for free. The only people who think cheap imports are bad are that industry that want protection of unfair foreign competition. French economics Frederic Bastiat used satire in 1845. The mock protectionism with a fake petition, candle markers asking the government to block sunlight, claiming the sun was was an unfair foreign ravel that the market folded the market with free light and running their business. Protectionism blocked cheap foreign goods like coral and cheese because their prices are low. Yet they let the sun's free light in without complaint, while cheap imports and free resource benefits a country overall that don't make economic sense. Idea of unfair foreign competition. It's often used to justify protections, blocking or limiting imports. It means people claim that foreign produce any unfairly hurting local business by selling cheaper goods.
The issue has been resolved. Fearing cheap foreign labor is a fallacy. Cheaper imports help the US overall, and the trade deficits don't correlate with high unemployment. While some workers lose jobs, this is a policy issue, not a trade issue, and programs can cushion the blow. American high wages come from high productivity, competitive edges. The solution is good policy and transition help, not ditching free trade. And before we end this session, I would leave you a quote of "No nation was never ruined by trade" by Benjamin Franklin. Thank you.